Okay, you do it. Okay, we are getting shocking new details on the deadly midair collision between an American Airlines jet and an Army helicopter, which cost the lives of 67 people. It looks like there is a crane on the scene right now. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announcing that the FAA will restrict helicopter traffic around Reagan National Airport airspace. And for good reason. Military helicopter flights reportedly forced at least 2 planes to abort landings at the airport in the week before the deadly collision. One of those close calls came just 24 hours before the collision. Additionally, it has been revealed that air traffic control staffing was, quote, not normal at the time of the collision. And one of the controllers was apparently allowed to leave their shift early right before the fatal crash. President Trump is vowing to fix the DEI rot at the FAA by ordering a review of all federal aviation hiring and safety decisions in response. Here's the president.
This was all caused by bad rules, regulations, and other things by the Biden administration. And when you look at the way they ran things, in fact, if you look, we hired, one of the first things I told them to do is get talented people in those beautiful towers overlooking runways. You better get them in there fast because we don't have people there that are qualified. And you knew that because planes were landing very, very late. This was all because of weak rules in the Biden administration.
On the crash, do you have any concerns that your commentary about things you have described as common sense or your observations could in any way interfere with the thorough investigation of the crash?
No, I think they'll do an investigation. It'll probably come out the way I said it. I was right on all of it, but they'll still do an investigation just to check it out.
But instead of conceding that the president has a point on raising standards for people who help fly our planes, all the liberal media wants to do is attack, attack, attack.
When you talk about DEI and Trump, it means despicable, enraging idiocy.
He does 3 minutes of let's pause in silence, and then let's blame the blacks, let's blame the disabled.
You know, that's what diversity is. And that is what the president said, that black, brown people, women and people with disabilities caused this crash.
What he is saying is that the only people who are competent to run anything in this country are white men.
His instinct is never to bring people together, but even in some stunning fashion, try to blame others.
I got to tell you, Jesse, the claim that when he talks about DEI and lower standards, their interpretation is that what he's saying is that only white people are competent. Are they stupid? Do they not know what DEI is about?
They know, but they can't admit it because it was their idea. The politicians demanded that Reagan add all these extra flights to this airport because they all need to get home to their districts to have 3- and 4-day weekends. But the politicians didn't staff Reagan. Reagan wasn't staffed. It's the busiest runway in the country, and they don't have enough people. But they have enough people at the Department of Veterans Affairs, where they're having orgies. They have 60 DEI employees at the VA, but they don't have enough at a control tower at Reagan, the busiest runway. They could have had enough, but Biden wouldn't let white guys in. According to a lawsuit, 1,000 white guys who had perfect scores. One guy had 100% on the entrance exam to be an air traffic controller. Biden said no. That's still in litigation. I had a guest on last night who flies these Army choppers, and she said that the air traffic control communication was bad. It was poor. It was vague. And that could have caused this crash. And no one knows why this Black Hawk was flying on this flight path anyway. But why don't we have enough guys? Also, not only the staffing, was because of the pandemic, we stopped for 2 years training these guys. How is that not an essential worker? So we have no one to go onto these towers and control this. Only 1% of air traffic facilities in this entire country have hit their staffing targets. That was last year. That was under Mayor Pete. So this is poor management, it's poor priorities, and if they have a problem with it in the media, it's called constructive criticism.
You know, Katie, the truth is that they're making DEI about race when it's about intelligence, it's about competence, it's about recognizing that we need the smartest people doing surgery, flying aircrafts, protecting the American people. We know certain things. We know that the helicopter was at 200 feet, was supposed to be, and then it was at 350.
Right.
We know Jesse's right about the controller saying, do you see a plane, without identifying which plane it was, right, because there was one landing and one taking off. So that's a problem. Now we hear today that there was a controller who left early.
Yeah. Well, Washington, D.C. and Reagan National have been managing these types of flights with the different elevations, the planes, commercial planes, and the helicopters for years. There's been tens of thousands of flights in and out of Reagan without having this problem. So the question is, what has changed? I mean, if you live in D.C. and you fly in and out of D.C. all the time, you see these helicopters all around town. And the question is, well, why is it there are helicopters in these paths anyway? They're doing military training. There's no other place in the whole country they can do military training that's not literally in the pathway of these commercial airline flights. Also, these helicopters are there because high-profile politicians or cabinet members or people who want to get out of traffic and get somewhere quickly, they want a helicopter ride from the Pentagon to the White House to Langley to the CIA, et cetera. So that's why these flights are taking place. It's not that they're necessary, but they have been able to manage them. And so you have to ask the question of what has changed here? And Jesse's right. You know, there's this class action lawsuit against the FAA for turning away thousands of highly qualified individuals who applied for these FAA jobs because they weren't the right skin color. So when you talk about the diversity and the inclusion and equity, it's actually a violation of the Civil Rights Act, first of all. It's discrimination. And second of all, it's dangerous. And maybe, you know, we still need to know what happened in this situation, but it's clear that when you're hiring people for very sensitive jobs based on skin color or gender or whatever else, rather than merit or 100% scores on an FAA test, there's going to be a problem somewhere at some point.
You know, Greg, one of the things that we found out is that there are 3 people on the Black Hawk. One is, I think they call him a crew chief, and then they had the one pilot with 1,000 hours, the other with 500 hours. One of the families is saying we don't want the name of our family member identified. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't want to answer that question because that to me, it's not my area of expertise. I think that the topic that interests me is, can you blame the Biden administration and can you be suspicious about the competency of the FAA? And I say you can blame the Biden administration and you can be suspicious because who brought the suspicion on? Well, the Democratic Party covered up an incapacitated president. That is the most important office in the land, and it was deliberately compromised. So why shouldn't you wonder about every single institution underneath that? If they were that cavalier about the president of the United States, we should be worried. I said this before. There is a crisis of competence, and we saw it in that debate. We had also a guy in charge in nuclear safety who was a kleptomaniac fetishist. There was no one at the wheel. So this goes back to, why is Trump succeeding? Because he's establishing order among disorder, whether it is crime, immigration, foreign policy. And that appeal to order comes from this overwhelming sense of chaos, which comes from the top down. The hood ornament of chaos was the president of the United States. He reflected the incoherence and the confusion and the absence of leadership that spread out throughout the entire governmental system. Trump is the realignment. And he's doing it through a very simple prism. America first, driven by common sense. It could be applied to every segment of the government and almost every segment of society, especially when there's a segment that feels that it might be in disarray, and you see this accident, you wonder, how does that happen? How does somebody leave early? Was somebody inexperienced? You have every right to be suspicious because it may be connected to the overarching crisis of competence. It's a crisis of competence. It causes a lack of confidence. And the solution that Trump is offering, it may not be right in this case. It may not be DEI. But you sure as hell can ask that question because it seems to us that every institution has been degraded in the last, 4 years. You can go back even further. When Trump came in, he didn't know what he got. He didn't know what he got. You can go, oh, but this was under him. He didn't have a clue. The government was already screwed. We were screwed. Now he's doing the unscrewing.
The unscrewing.
The
Yes.
unscrewing. That's good to know. But what you've got now is once we find out the facts, and I think the facts are going to be pretty easy to find out. I think we may already know them. It's the why. You know, why do we have so many vacancies in the FAA?
I would love to know the answers to that. I think the NTSB representatives have seemed really good in these press conferences, very authoritative, talking about the time that they need, but saying I'm going to be as transparent as possible. They get their investigations done usually in less time than they allot themselves to do it. So hopefully we get answers. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with asking questions about our procedures that ended up with a completely cataclysmic American horror story in what happened. Yeah, we all agree on that. But when Jesse says that President Trump is offering constructive criticism, it is not constructive criticism to say this is Joe Biden's fault or this is Pete Buttigieg's fault.
Why not?
Because that's just blaming your political adversary. It's not taking any responsibility.
It's blaming the
it's
guy
not
that was
sharing
there
the risk.
before.
Who
Right,
had
but
the
you know what? Actually,
responsibility?
the nifty part about being the 45th and 47th president is you were also the guy before. And Greg is right. These policies were in place under Trump. I went to try to find out about your dwarf recruitment.
Yes.
And that existed under the Trump administration.
Dwarf quota?
Yes, actually. It's up from June 2017 to June 2021. There's even a post from April 2019. FAA provides careers to people with disabilities. The list.
Good, give them a job.
Targeted
Don't put them in a control tower.
No,
I mean, we're talking
realize
apples
how
and oranges.
No,
That's
you're
not what
You're
it's
talking
about. It's about the
I'm
fact
saying-
that you were explaining why Doge is necessary. Trump didn't know about that. Let's be obvious.
So then Trump doesn't know what he is in control of, at least for
Why
the first
didn't
4
Biden
years.
fill the jobs?
He knows what he's
This
getting
is-
rid of
you
because
got-
I don't think there's going to be a dwarf
can't-
quota after this.
By the way, lay off the little people.
Sorry, Greg.
Go ahead.
You know that you're being hypocritical about this. I started with there should be a full investigation.
And
I
there will
want
be.
this, and there will be. But you cannot deny the fact that when Trump came in to give the press conference, the first one yesterday, he did the nice part. Then he found himself again. He immediately said DEI, DEI. Then the support staff, Duffy Hegseth, said DEI. Then the picture came out, and it was a white guy who had done 1,000 hours. So we moved on to incompetence, right? If that had been a minority person, or I heard, I mean, they're
That's
trying to say that this
speculation.
pilot.
But DEI
Yes,
is about incompetence. That's the
But
point.
you don't think that there is a reason that he shifted gears after he saw.
We're not mind readers.
No.
You're not. No, you're never mind readers with
No,
Trump.
I don't read
you're
minds.
Just mind readers.
You know, that's why
with
the
Biden when you
left
say that
lost.
it's
They
law.
thought they could read people's minds, and you fell prey to.
You know what I don't have to mind read about when you say that everyone loves this because it's so streamlined and he's been so successful. I know that there is chaos because of this, of sending out missives saying.
Because you read Peggy Noonan's piece.
It's also
No,
about
because
the
I saw
future.
portals being down. I saw emails going out to people saying, oh, you could take a buyout. I saw emails going out that you're going to be fired tomorrow. I saw.
You know what?
Well,
I'm
Jen, why is
worried
that?
about more people coming out of the frigid water and why they're in that water
No, you're-
than whether or not you're going to be, you
But
you got a job
you're
or
only
you
worried about
don't.
it if it's Joe Biden's fault. You're not.
No,
willing-
I'm not. I'm worried about human. This is the
Share
worst.
the risk,
This
as
is
Greg
the
would
worst
say.
crash since
I don't think you
2001.
interpreted that correctly.
All right.